Hello, dear friends, and welcome to the Soviet Life, the podcast where we journey back in time to see what kind of impact Soviet era had not only on our country but globally in the context of the whole world. Today, I have a very special guest, Monika Dorosheff-Chamasyan, who is from Armenia. Monika grew up in the former USSR during the 80s and 90s, and then immigrated to the United States in 2000. She obtained her bachelor's degree in Armenian music performance, and then later got her diploma in a master's degree in music performance in the United States. She currently has her own private violin studio in Herndon, Virginia called Hill Strigs, where she's very busy with a full schedule of young students from ages 3 to 18. But before we dive into today's conversation, I want to take a moment to tell you a bit about Armenia, where my guest grew up during the Soviet era. So Armenia is a small mountainous country in the South Caucasus region, located between Turkey, Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Iran. It's one of the oldest countries in the world with deep and proud cultural heritage. In fact, Armenia was the first nation to adopt Christianity, something I didn't know until I started doing my research for this podcast. So Christianity was adopted as a state religion all the way back in year 301. Most of you probably heard about genocide carried during World War I, very dark times in Armenian history. In 1915, Ottoman Empire, which is now Turkey, carried out the genocide. This was an extremely tragic event that remains central and somber cornerstone to Armenian national identity. After a brief period of independence, Armenia became one of the founding republics of the Soviet Union in 1922 and stayed part of the Soviet Union until 1991 when the Soviet Union collapsed. Of course, during the Soviet time, there was some positives, some negatives. There was a lot of industrialization, expanded education, infrastructure, but also a lot of political oppression, restrictions on freedom, and a lot of economic hardship, something all of the republics had undergone. In the late 80s, the Soviet Union was weakening, and Armenia was already experiencing a lot of political unrest. One of the most defining moments came in 1988, when a devastating earthquake struck a northern territory, killing tens of thousands of Armenians and leaving hundreds of thousands homeless. I remember that day actually when we were in school. I still remember to the day when we were gathering supplies to send to Armenia. It is still a fresh memory, and the images of just such a devastating earthquake and so many people that died, sadly, and thousands were left homeless. Around the same time, tensions flared with neighboring Azerbaijan over the Nagorno-Karabakh region. Maybe some of you have heard of it. It's a dispute that continued to the day. If you follow the news, you may have heard that in 2023, just 2 years ago, Azerbaijan conducted military offensive and ended the Armenian ethnic presence in Nagorno-Karabakh. And 100,000 people were forced out of their homes, causing tremendous hardship to Armenian people. That ongoing crisis remains central to Armenian present-day identity. And in March of this year, Armenia and Azerbaijan signed a preliminary peace treaty in Abu Dhabi establishing borders and diplomacy. But territorial disputes and people displaced from 2003 unfortunately remains a sore subject and is still unresolved. So today, Armenia continues to face complex political economic challenges, but it's also a place of remarkable resilience, vibrant tradition, and strong community. Many Armenians, including those who came of age during the Soviet times, have powerful stories about those times and that transition. And that is why I have my guest here on the podcast that will capture those times, that will bring to life and give voice to Armenian people. So without further ado, I have Miss Monika. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome. I am so happy to see you. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. What a nice introduction and what a deep historic dive.
I hope I didn't bore
Very
anybody,
good.
but I really think it's important to kind of give a brief history to the listeners. Hopefully they didn't fall asleep.
Yeah,
And by the
Armenia is a long story for sure.
Yes, I try to do it as quickly as possible. I hope I didn't leave too much, but I have a lot of friends from Armenia. They're all just like you, very positive, very kind, very nice. In fact, I remember I had physics teacher from Armenia who was so passionate about the subject that he would just go out of his way to make sure every student understood physics. In fact, after that, I started to develop love for science, and I work in, I've been a scientist for years in a laboratory. So that's again thanks to that Armenian. So, but tell me a little bit about your times growing up in the back in the USSR. How was it, especially in Armenia?
Yeah, I was born in 1976. So, and my conscious life when I remember Soviet Union was probably around maybe 5 or 6 years old when I started to, consciously live as a child. So I think by when I became 15 years old,
Hmm.
that's when Soviet Union collapsed when I was 15 years old. So I was a teenager
Yeah.
at that time. And I was about to enter conservatory with
Hmm.
the exams. I think I actually had my exams already, and we were just hearing about the the putsch,
Yes,
the coup
the
in
coup.
Moscow. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I was studying with my private teacher of harmony. So this is sort of like a composition and theory teacher that
Hmm.
I had to take lessons from him, private lessons, in order to pass these exams. And he was from those times of '88 when you mentioned
Hmm.
a big earthquake,
Hmm.
and at the same time in Azerbaijan, which is a region called Sumgait. I don't know if you read about that, but they conducted another massacre of
Oh.
Armenians, and lots of refugees came
Mhm.
from that area to Armenia, and my teacher was
Wow.
one of them.
Wow.
And he was a very outspoken against
Hmm.
the regime, against the Kremlin,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially. So
Wow.
when I'm gonna when I speak about, let's say,
Mhm.
Russians, if that slips away, what I really mean is the government, the
The
Kremlin,
government.
really.
Yes.
So because I have so many, my education is the Russian education. Actually,
Yes.
I went to Russian school,
Wow.
so I all my subjects were in Russian. So
Hmm.
I know the Russian culture very well, and I have many Russian friends.
Yeah.
So he was very outspoken, and he
Hmm.
told me that night, he said, and I actually had a lesson with him. He said, I am going to be glued to TV
Wow.
because if the communists win, I'm going to jail.
Mm. Wow.
So we were watching on TV, and then all of a sudden
And then,
they would turn it off, and it would come, the Swan Lake would just be on the ballet of Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. We knew something is really up when the Swan Lake came up.
yeah, and remind me,
All of a
what year
sudden,
was that?
this is
1988,
91.
91. Okay. Okay. So he was just hoping the coup will go through and the
Correct.
communists don't regain the power because he was already. When did he start being outspoken? Was that just around that time?
And around 88 and 89, when,
1888.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So when he was outspoken, because me growing up, I've never heard anybody saying anything negative except for here and there, you may hear something, but it would be in a very private conversation. So when he was outspoken, was he talking to more of a general public or was it
Well, he grew up in Baku, in Azerbaijan. At that time was Azerbaijan already, so it was
a
Soviet.
rival, Armenia's rival, basically, the enemy,
Yeah, Soviet
technically?
Azerbaijan. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and they had all kinds of neighbors. They had Azeris, not many, but some. There are a lot of Armenians, a lot of Russians, like just sort of like a Soviet Union, a hodgepodge of Soviet Union people. So
Mm-hmm.
we grew up with lots of neighbors that were different nationalities, and they were fine. They were in peace until these things start to happen, and
Mm.
he knew something. I don't know from where, but he knew that the Kremlin's finger was in it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
So he started speaking up about it and being against it. And I'm not sure, I should talk to him. He's still alive. I should talk to him and ask him more about that. But that's all I know, that he was telling me
Interesting.
that he's outspoken about politics. And that was taboo. You couldn't do that against a government. You just
Yes.
never know, and you never knew who is listening.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. This is a theme throughout my podcast that
Yeah,
I talk
yeah.
about all the time.
It was. Everybody was sort of fearful of speaking up completely. Armenians are very good at that. They would crack jokes, or they would say
Hmm.
some things that would hint on things, in a very humorous way. In fact, you probably know that Armenian radio was the famous radio of jokes in
Really?
Soviet times.
Oh, wow.
If you just Google Armenian radio, you will hear
Oh,
a lot of jokes about
definitely
that.
check it out. Yeah,
So
I'll
there,
have to check it out.
Armenians still have lots of sense of humor, and I still cherish that. If I hear Armenians speaking about politics, it's a scream. It's really funny.
Wow. Nice. I'll definitely check it out. Wow. So your family, when did you decide to go into music? Is that something you always wanted? How did that shape?
Yes, I wanted to play violin since I remember myself. Um,
Wow.
my mother said that was first time I expressed an interest. I was maybe 3.
Wow. Just like that. It's three, you already knew.
I don't think I knew what violin is. She took me to music store, I think, and
Hmm.
that's how she tells me. I don't remember. I do
Wow.
remember seeing violin first time, and that's probably was that time when she took me to music store, and I saw this beautiful violin hanging on a wall, and it
Wow.
just it was so gorgeous. I said I want to have that, and I was a very well behaved child. My mother was
Mhm.
very strict. She's a mathematician. Okay.
Yes. Wow. Amazing. I was gonna ask you next if your parents were musicians, but they're not. That's impressive.
They're not. My mother is a mathematician, economist by profession, and my dad is a gymnast. They're so
Wow.
yeah, she took me to a store and I saw the violin, and apparently I threw a tantrum because I wanted that toy, and she said that's not a toy, and she took me out of the store and said, behave like this ever again. And
Yes.
she said, I will take you home and I will show you what that violin does. And she turned the TV on, and we had classical channel. We had about 4 or 5 channels total in
Yeah.
in Armenia. It was
Yeah,
very
and same
simple.
same in Belarus. It was three, 4 channels. That's it. I think we had three. When I was growing up, we had only 3 channels.
Right. So, and one of them was always classical channel, right? So we always had some kind of music going on, and she found the
I
violins
remember the war
playing
movies. I was watching the war movies.
during the May time, right? The May
The
the
80s.
it,
The 80s.
yes. My mother still watches those horror movies. Yeah, then she said, it's not
That's
a
your
toy,
thing.
it's a violin. And I said, I want that toy even more because it can do those kind of things that can make those sounds. So I think I
That's
just
amazing.
wanted to play violin since then. And
Wow.
then nothing else. I wish I did have other
No, but you're
interests, but I
great
didn't.
is what you're at now. This is your thing, and look at you have your own business and teach other people. This is fantastic. Tell me,
Thank
if you don't mind, a little bit about the music education structure in the Soviet Union, if you can. I know it's a little bit different than here in America. For my kids, I have to take private lessons, uh,
Right.
pay a lot of money for private lessons, and then I don't play any instrument. My husband is not a musician either, so they're kind of on their own to practice, which is very difficult.
Right, correct. It's so growing up in Armenia, you had school, which was academic school, and you had music school.
Hmm.
So people, the parents would apply to music school. You had to apply for it, and I think
Hmm.
the government subsidized the families to take music lessons, but you had to pass an
Exams,
entrance
yes.
exam.
Exams.
I still have PTSD from that entrance exam. It was very serious, you know. You had to sing us 2 songs. They had to play some kind of melody on a piano, and you had to sing it back. If you didn't sing it back perfectly in tune
Hmm.
and perfectly in a rhythm, and they would clap the rhythm, you would have to clap back. Kind of like checking if the child has any abilities, right?
Yes.
And if you didn't pass it, forget it. You're not doing a piano for sure. Piano
Oh,
was the very competitive part to get into. Violin somehow was a less competitive, which
really?
makes no sense to me. But
Interesting. Well, I got that in the piano, the most challenging and competitive.
yes.
Well, that speaks volumes about your ability. That's impressive.
Well, thank you. My mother, and that's all my mother. She prepared me with two songs and all the singing. She had formal, maybe 6 years of education in the
Yeah.
piano. So she knew what's coming. So she prepared me totally. It was like a SAT kind of like preparation.
I have to tell you a secret. When I was 5, I wanted to be a musician too. Maybe it's
Oh,
because they had that channel playing and it was like either the war movies or the music channel. But anyway, when I was 5, I don't know why or how I decided I want to be a musician. Maybe because I just was more of a performer. And I do remember I had to take the test. I do remember I'm still having the memories of being drilled. In fact, my mom had me learn to play this song on the piano. В траве сидел кузнечик, it's called. I don't remember how to play it, but I do. I had to practice it for a long time. I had to sing too, so we had the song prepared. So the day of the exam, I still remember the day of the exam in a huge room with a panel of students, very nervous and terrified because you're
yes.
like 6. And she said, make sure after you sing and you do that, you tell them you want to play a piano song. Of course, I'm standing there terrified. I sing the song, I do what they need me to do, and they said, okay, you can go now. So I go. My mom was so mad at me. Why didn't you tell them you wanted to play a song on the piano so you could get on the piano? So long story short, I didn't get on the piano because I didn't have the abilities, apparently. But
That's
they did accept me. They did accept me in bass. You know that
oh
big instrument that you
yes,
play, the bass,
bass.
bass,
Yeah, yeah. The bass,
the
the bass.
bass. Yes. And I just didn't want to do it because I was too of a girly girl,
Yeah,
and
I
I'm like, well,
know.
that's not gonna be pretty enough. This is too big, too bulky. No, I'm not interested. So that
Yeah,
was my music adventure.
that is we just touched the very important part that I learned in music education in Soviet Armenia versus United States, right?
Yes,
It's hard to find good teacher here. You have to know who you're looking for. But in Soviet Union, everybody knew who's a good teacher.
yes,
So there was only one or two in town because Armenia was small. And Armenia was small country. So they all tried to get into that studio. All parents tried to get into that studio, but they only took talented kids already with high abilities versus here in the United States,
hmm
they do teach kids. They do try
of
to
any
give
ability.
them,
Yeah, yes, yes,
yes. And so the teaching part is important. I think it depends on a teacher. In Soviet Union, it was depending on a teacher you had, but
yeah.
most of them just took talented kids just to
It's the
because it
same
was
with
a
sports too.
production, sort of like a production.
Correct, correct.
Um,
What is
the
your
produced
thought?
players.
What is your thought on that? Do you, and again, there's pros and cons. It's kind of hard to tell. What is your thought on that Soviet model versus American model, in your opinion, just your opinion?
Um, I think somewhere in the middle would be the best because
Hmm.
there are some kids that would be better off not playing music but doing sports
Correct.
or doing visual arts. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter. You can't push the kid who doesn't love it. That's
Exactly.
another thing. But in the other extreme is what if the kid is talented in music but doesn't want to do that and they keep pushing him, to do music because he's talented or the daddy did it or mom did it. Here's just
Yeah,
different. They kind of look at the child and see what the where abilities are and what the wishes are, where his what he wants to do, what the child wants to do is the best thing for him to do,
correct.
plus the abilities. So you have to take all of it in consideration. But
Yes,
again, good teacher is crucial in any
absolutely.
in any subject. So I think
Absolutely.
that's um, I came here to United States and I was taking Suzuki method
Hmm.
teaching method. I was training with another teacher who was training me to be Suzuki method teacher.
Wow.
So and then when she asked me, she asked everybody in the in a room, she said, "Where are you from and what kind of education you had?" So when the turn came to me and I said, "I'm from, I have a Russian school." She goes, "Oh, everybody get up and give her a hug."
Wow.
So I think Americans pretty much know what the Russian school means in a way, like with the whip and the
Yeah.
band-aids,
Yes, yes. And
So,
and could you explain to us a little bit what is the Suzuki method versus just playing violin, let's say, or playing any musical instrument? For
so
people that have
Suzuki,
never heard of the word Suzuki method.
right, right. Suzuki is Shinichi Suzuki is a Japanese teacher, and he came up with this idea of learning by ear. So the child can learn playing violin at any age. So if they have any abilities of holding the instrument up, they start with little foam or and they start listening to music. But so his idea was from why do children know English? Or why Japanese children speak Japanese and why Chinese children speak Chinese? Because mothers speak to them. So
Yes.
by just listening to the tune or to the what teacher is showing them, they basically copy it. So they don't need to learn a reading first. So they just learn play violin itself. Then later, when they're able to cognitively start reading at age, 5 or 6, they start to read. But before then, they already are almost like accomplished violinists. When he
Wow.
brought his studio to United States a long time
Mm.
ago, people were amazed that 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds were playing Vivaldi concertos.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
it became popular, and what it is just teacher basically showing and teaching the instrument itself without pointing at them at music. So it's small little
Mhm.
songs that the children, short songs that children learn from the teacher. So
Wow.
basically, knowing how to play violin before you start reading.
Before you can like read notes and
Correct.
all that.
Yes, reading
Wow.
notes. Yeah.
Wow. Very, very
Yeah,
impressive.
versus the Soviet Union, you had to know how to read notes.
First.
So you couldn't go into music school until you were maybe 6.5 or something like
Mm.
that.
So you
Six
can
or
read the
six.
notes.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Um, when you tell me where were you when you've heard about the collapse of the Soviet Union?
I was in
After.
Yerevan, Armenia. Yerevan is the capital of Armenia. I lived and I'm from there. I was born there. So it was summertime. And I was again like, entering the conservatory and we've heard, and I think I did finish my exams and got in, but
Hmm.
then Soviet Union collapsed.
How did you take those news and your family? How was it? This.
It was, in a way, sort of a start, a new start, and exciting for Armenians,
Yes.
because they became independent first time in a long time.
Wow. Wow.
So they were, I think it was coming, it was a lot of hardships before it all happened, but
Hmm.
Armenia as a nation knows how to unite at the critical moments. It's a very deeply genetic Armenian thing. The
Wow.
hardships come in and people unite like
Mm.
one person and they help each other like they are your family.
Wow,
So
that's
we
amazing.
basically up and started the country from scratch. We had to
Wow.
invent um, the currency. We had to
Mm.
invent the laws, to
Mm.
basically from the
Everything.
zero, you're making country like like Washington did in the United States.
Wow.
So it was no electricity, no transportation, no food.
Mm.
So farmers grew food
Mm.
themselves, and if you were a teacher, you would teach the farmer's kid for free while the farmer brought you a sack of potatoes or something
Hmm.
that he was growing as a bartering. We started bartering as
Wow. And that was
people.
after the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Correct.
So
Yes.
you stayed in Armenia till 2000. Can you
Yes.
talk about the life after the Soviet collapse? How was your life different in some memories if you have?
Diaspora opening to diaspora. All of a
Mhm.
sudden, all of a sudden diaspora Armenians started to come in
So
because
people
of
returning back from overseas, from abroad. Very interesting.
right during the Soviet Union. It was very closed as Iron Curtain. Yeah, it was
Hmm.
Iron Curtain, so people
Yes.
couldn't go from. And a lot of diaspora Armenians were either in Europe or United States, and that they couldn't get into Armenia. All of a sudden, it was open, and we would see a lot of Armenians coming back and seeing their country,
Hmm.
first time probably in generations.
Wow.
So that was exciting to see Armenians with other basically kind of different kind of cultures, where they were from genocide times. They would leave
Yes.
Adana. Oh, my great grandmother is from Adana, now Turkey at that time.
Wow. Wow.
So people, my other part of the family basically stayed on the other side. So it was a split after that, right? So Soviet Armenia versus
Mm.
democratic world or free world, you know.
Wow.
So that
Wow.
was exciting, and that part was exciting. And they started helping. Without diaspora, Armenia would not survive.
Wow. So they helped rebuild it.
Absolutely.
How were they doing with the rebuild? Do you feel like, at least when you were leaving the country, do you feel like they succeeded there, or there's still a lot of work to do?
They did succeed in a lot of things, like the foundation, but I think the tentacles of
Mhm.
former Soviet Union tentacles were still there and are still there.
Yes.
So it's an empire that is trying to not trying to change, I guess. They're
Mm.
resisting to change, resisting to opening up, and they have
Yeah.
um how do you say, they consider former
Mhm.
Soviet Union countries as their
Yes.
under their empire states.
Oh yeah,
And
I don't blame them. They reminisce about the old Soviet Union. In Armenia right now, or the time when you were there, did you feel like Armenians themselves, was there any desire to be back with the Soviet Union or be part of it? Did anybody miss that, or not really?
I don't think so, but the hardships, that was hard on older people. The
Mm,
younger people drove the country to the to new world,
forward,
basically.
yes, forward, yes.
And I think the older generation, it was just hard on them.
Yeah.
I think the reminiscing things, and while that was
Mhm.
easy, it was
Yes.
simple, things think you can hear these things, but that generation is now in their 90s and over, almost.
Hopefully they get over it and now see that this is a
Right,
better
right.
structure, better life.
There's always the next generation that's coming and changing things. So
For sure. Yeah, changes. The, that's all we have right now is change. That's the only thing that's certain is
and
change, as they
change is
say.
sometimes painful, but
Oh yeah,
necessary.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, interesting. How did your family take the news? Because I know your parents were they also, I know they're as an older generation, I would say. Did you hear anything from them, their opinions, their thoughts on this whole change?
I I think they were just they hunkered down to basically focused on
Mhm.
the family. So they started to because they couldn't change anything. So the change was coming. And
Yes,
I think for my parents was basically big focus time to survive. To
absolutely.
I have two sisters, so there's three of us.
Hmm.
And basically with nothing in the country, I can't imagine. I have children now, and I can't imagine what my mom and dad went through. So I
Yes.
think they were just too busy thinking, how are we going to
Surviving day by
feed
day.
this family? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
He,
But my
he,
grandmother, in the
hmm.
other hand, she opened her, they called this a little book of life savings, right?
Hmm.
She had that in a bank, I suppose, and it was gone. And
I
she
was going
worked
to
hard
ask you
all
next
her
about
life.
inflation, if the guys got hit by the inflation like we did.
It was gone. Everything that she earned in her life was
Mm.
gone. And I remember she was crying, and that was the first time I saw my grandmother crying. And that was hard on me. That was hard to see.
Oh,
It was
wow.
sort of a unfair, stolen, the feelings
Yes.
of the big
Yes.
lie, came
Mm.
out. So
Yeah, there's so many people, there's so many sad stories that I witnessed myself of generations of people saving money for years and years just to have it devalue in a matter of a week.
just poofed
And
away. Yeah.
people were running to buy supplies like refrigerators, just something that they can invest money in because they knew the ruble was just dropping like
That's right.
really. So they were just, it was so crazy. It was just so crazy. It's
I
so
remember those term vouchers. Do you remember that?
vouchers, yes, when they were trying to have pr private properties and they were talking about it on the radio and it was just so foreign that I all went right above my head. I think I was 14 or 15 and I was like, okay, I don't know what they're talking about, but they're all talking about it, this big new thing.
So I don't envy my parents, and it's hard times. As a parent now, I don't know how they did it.
Yeah, it's very hard. When did you first heard about United States and what was your first impression or how was that introduction before you even arrived to United States?
So during the Soviet Union, we had we would always tune the radio to Voice of America, and that was coming from Washington, D.C.
Wow.
And there were Armenians, diaspora Armenians,
Hmm.
speaking in Western Armenian. So we have Western Armenian and Eastern Armenian. That was another divide that happened
Interesting.
after Soviets.
Mm.
So they were old Armenian, basically, like the biblical Armenian. So
Hmm.
they were speaking in that Armenian language, telling us what's going on in the United States, and we would always tune and listen to it. And that's how we knew, again, diaspora was the big connection.
Mm.
That's how I knew about the United States
Yeah.
since birth, I guess. We always
And
were connected to,
yeah.
yeah.
And it was always a positive view of America as you were growing up. Was there? It was always a positive view.
Yes, I thought as a child, I thought the children in America must be very, very happy because they
Yes.
were always smiling. We would see commercials and things like that. I was like, wow, these children are always happy. They must have a million toys.
Yes, I imagine. Interesting. You see, we didn't have, I've never heard of Voice of America. We, in Belarus, I'm not saying we didn't have it, but I've not heard about it myself or within my family.
Mhm.
Um, but when I was growing up, I remember in school, I remember going to the library and picking up this book from the shelf, and it had this ugly picture of some old man, and it's called Mr. Twister. And it was not so
Uh-huh.
much about America, it was more about the capitalist countries, the West. And it would say, Mr., if I understand, it was Mr. Twister, former minister, Mr. Twister, millionaire. And then it went on how he was greedy, how he was mean to
Right,
people, and it was just constantly fed to you. So growing up, you had maybe not so much of a positive view,
right.
but for me, I met, my dad was working at for the government at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So we actually, there was a program called Friendship Force. So we actually hosted some of the Americans, and that was after the fall of the Soviet Union, of course. Before that, you couldn't have any
Yeah.
relationships at all. And that's when I had we hosted some of the Americans. That's when I actually saw what great people, what amazing people they are, how kind they are, how friendly and how caring. And I was kind of surprised. I was surprised, and after that, it was a completely different world that opened up to me.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Well, I decided to continue my education in music.
Hmm.
I at that time I was already 24,
Wow.
23 when I applied to United States. Bowling Green, Ohio, is where
Hmm.
I wanted to go because of my teacher who was studying under my old teacher in Armenia. So he was one of his students, my teacher's students, who was already successful soloist,
Hmm.
successful musician. So I just looked him up and I said, Moses, his name is Moses. I said, I want to come and study with you. He goes, well, apply to this university. And I'm teaching there now. He was a professor at that
Yes.
university. So I did. And I already had a job for a year in National Chamber Orchestra. I was the highest paying musician job there.
In
We had
America,
in United States,
United
I
States,
mean, in Armenia.
in Armenia.
I
So
was
you had a
already
good job
working,
already in
yes.
Armenia, and a
Yeah, I
high
was
paid job.
working adult, working
Hmm.
musician
Yeah, as a
as
24.
successful as I could get there. It's just a small country, and for musicians, you do have to go outside of the country. Musicians very often travel, and they have to go all over the world to advance their career.
Correct.
And I said, well, if you can't conquer the United States as a musician, you're not conquering anything. So I decided to go to the United States.
Tell me about your journey. Tell me how you arrived. What were your first impression?
I
If you
arrived to
remember.
New York,
Mm-hmm.
LaGuardia.
Uh-huh.
Um, it was
Yeah, I hear that
very
laugh.
much, very much New York impression, you know.
Yes.
And after we just didn't have any money, so we had to buy the cheapest ticket possible to go to Ohio. This is a
Mm-hmm.
long story, making short. We had to go on to Greyhound bus. You know, Greyhound is the bus service in the United States from
Oh
New
yeah.
York all the way to Ohio.
Oh yes.
Lost, yeah, lost our, got off the bus in some other state, totally not Bowling Green, totally not Ohio, thinking that we are in Ohio, and then rebooked our tickets and then lost all our belongings. By the
Oh
time we
no.
got there, we were exhausted.
Oh my gosh. You remember what state it was? By chance.
So it's me and Marina, my sister. So I
Oh my
said, I'm
God.
not going to United States alone. You're
Yes.
applying with me. And so
Yes.
she's a pianist. So she applied to the same university and
Got accepted.
got invited to play there.
Wow.
Yeah, invited to apply to play for their exams. And that's what we did. So it took it's a long story, but it's another podcast.
So finally you arrived in Ohio with nothing and no luggage. Just two
No
of you.
luggage for days. Yeah, we had a Romanian girl who helped us out for a
Wow.
few days until we got our luggage. It was international kids kind of helped each other out too.
Wow.
So yeah, arrived to Bowling Green and it was very like middle of America, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
very Americans, the true Americans, probably Midwest, right?
Yes. Yes.
Very traditional Christian, kind, so helpful, and just laid back and not like an Americans I saw in New York, right? It's different. It
Yes.
was
Big
very
difference.
different. So it's very interesting impression. Yeah.
How long
It
did you
was mhm.
how long did you stay in Ohio before you moved to Virginia?
2 years. 2 years. I studied 1 year for artist diploma and I did my master's degree in a year.
Wow.
I had a lot of transfer from Armenia, so
Mm-hmm.
um, a lot of credits to transfer, so that worked out really well.
You know,
Yeah,
there's this
but
common
Virginia I moved because of Mark, my husband, who I met
husband
in
who's
Bowling
also
Green.
Armenian. Who's also Armenian.
He is American. He's
Oh,
not
okay.
Armenian.
I was
He
something
is
that I thought he was
Russian
Armenian.
descent, actually,
Okay. Okay.
from Don region.
Wow.
Um, yeah,
From Ukraine.
from Ukraine.
He's
Yeah,
first or
Don
second
Don
generation.
Kazak, his
Mm.
grandfather, great grandfather, no, his grandfather fought for Tsar for Nicholas,
Wow.
and
Interesting.
so he was the white. There were reds and
Hmm.
whites,
Correct.
so
You're
he
in the
was the
Civil War.
white.
Wow.
Yeah, and then he was the Menshevik, right? And
Bolshevik.
they executed his entire family, and he was the
Mm.
only survivor. They came to America.
Mark's, your husband's grandfather.
Grandfather, yes.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
so his family, are they still around? His
They
parents
are.
and his
They are. The parents are
grandfather?
still around. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. I'm gonna have to
So
reach
at
out.
age 57, he started a family. That Kazakh.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I see a lot
Yeah.
of this theme so far. I mean, everybody that I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it's just people that made it here in America. Just about everybody from former Soviet territory, they're all very driven. And of course, I'm
Yeah.
proud to say that as coming from that area, that you always thrive to improve, to take every opportunity to do better at what you're doing. Would you agree that's a common theme? And why would that be? And again, I'm not saying that Americans are very driven too. This is not a comparison. This is just an observation that I noticed that people that I've interviewed so far, that people that I know in my circle too, are always very driven. Like look at you, for example. You've already established and had such a great career in Armenia. Yet you didn't stop there. You got your master's degree. You came here. You didn't just settle for this, but you open your own business, and you know you keep advancing. You have so much
Um,
motivation.
yes. For me, and I think that's true for a lot of people that are coming from nothing,
Yes. True.
is the appreciation of
Yes.
something. When
Yes.
you start to appreciate for anything, something that comes your way, it's a true appreciation, deep appreciation for it. And I think that's what where the motivation comes from. That's where the drive comes from. Because
Yes.
you take it like a hungry animal, like a
Mhm.
hungry,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
you so appreciate it, and you're gladly taking it and are cherishing it, cherishing every opportunity.
That is so well said. I 100% agree with you. I couldn't have said it better. That was fantastic. Is there anything again here in the former, if you travel back in the Soviet Union, and I ask everybody this question just to get your opinion, if you were to cherry pick something that was positive in the Soviet Union, and it's not to bring Soviet Union back, but because every society, every period in time had something good and positive that I think we probably should pick and hold on to, and as we move on, was there anything positive that you of those times that you would, if there's nothing, that's okay too.
Seeing other people as part of yours. Like we had teachers from Lithuania, we did teachers from Latvia. I had Russian teachers, I had Armenian teachers. They were all
Mm,
different nationalities and they all had their languages. We appreciated each culture. If I see an American, they all come from somewhere. I mean, if you dig deeper in their great grandparents, somewhere from somewhere, and then
correct.
once you put that culture with the face, and you're like, oh, it
Mhm.
makes so much sense why this person is this way. Like you say, if
Exactly.
it's Eastern European, you understand them a little better, and it's
Yes.
Italian or Irish. You can see how people are different because where they come from, and I think
Yes.
that was the part of that's what Soviet Union taught me to appreciate
Hmm.
is people that come from different places. We knew they're different countries.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. How is your family doing now? Your parents, they're still back home in Armenia, or they moved here?
They moved. My mom and dad moved here. And they won a green card
Oh, congratulations.
from
Congratulations.
Armenia. Thank you, a long time ago. But
Wow.
they came here, and that's all I have. I have my mom and dad and my two sisters here.
Wow. Wow.
That's all my family
It's all
is
your
back in
families.
Armenia.
So all your
Mhm.
families here. Wow.
And I
Do
was
you ever
just last year, first time in 24 years, I
you
visited
you went
Armenia.
back to Armenia to visit? How was that?
Oh, now I'm considered as diaspora Armenian to them.
Mhm.
They do see the difference now because half of my life already is lived here,
Yes.
in
Yes.
the United
This is
States. So
home
it's
now
very
too.
interesting. Yeah,
Have
people are
things
the same
improved?
loving people.
Have things improved there economically?
Economically, yes, and people stayed same sweet people, which
That's
this is
awesome.
yes,
That's the
very
best part
nice
that
to
they
see that.
still that soul remain. This is so fantastic to hear.
Yes,
Oh,
the hearts remain soft and
yes,
beautiful. So
yeah,
that's really nice to see.
absolutely. And then you open your own business. Tell me about that. This is kind of unusual. There's not a lot of people from the former Soviet Union that would take that risk. It wasn't embedded in us. We were not entrepreneurial at all. We were followers. We had supposed to have this herd mentality and do what the party says. So how did you come about to open your business?
I started teaching because of necessity. Everybody needs money and everybody needs to feed the family. So I started
Of
teaching.
course.
I played a lot and I freelanced a lot. I played as a soloist and even participated in competitions, one thing, but I wanted to have a family. So when you have a
Mhm.
family, you have to be close to your family. With the
Absolutely.
musicians, traveling a lot, it was not going to work. And I loved being mom. I loved being home with the babies. So
Hmm.
I decided to teach more. And I started basically it's a business of service, and I really cared about children. I really cared of the quality of teaching, and that's they just stuck with me. Whoever would come and would stick with me for years. I have
Hmm.
students. Very rarely students leave me once they come to me. So it's that part of the business really helps to provide service like that for people. And I think Americans are the the people to understand what service means, a good service, and I
Yes.
think they appreciate it, and they they help and they support.
Nice. And
They
then you
do. They consciously support good business here.
absolutely, absolutely. That's why your business is thriving and doing great, and then you
Yeah,
guys
it's not
growing.
so much me as far as driving the business. It's actually the parents who understand that is how important it is to find something a good quality of something, and they stick with it. Yeah, and people do care about education here. People do spend a lot of money for their children.
Yes, for sure. And to give a full disclosure, I know Monika from, first of all, I met Monika through another Armenian friend of mine. So as you mentioned that you have such a neat community and you help each other out, that right there is a testament to that. I've heard about Monika through a friend of mine who's also Armenian because I was looking for a violin teacher for my son who expressed interest. And he is right now currently taking classes from Monika, which I have to this is not, trying to promote anything. This is the truth. As the best violin instructor ever, and he's taking classes at other places. So I can be a true testament to that. As the
Thank
best
you.
teacher that I know, and the Suzuki method is really fantastic, absolutely
Thank you,
fantastic.
thank you. So your son takes lessons from me and another Armenian teacher, and I told him,
Mhm.
I said, it's like you're in Armenia. You go from one
Exactly,
teacher to another. He
exactly.
laughed.
Exactly, exactly. Wow, wow. So I know we're kind of running out of time. This is so interesting. I feel like I can keep talking to you and keep talking to you. You bring so much insight of Armenian people. I also hear of Armenia being like this hidden gem, especially
Absolutely.
the cities are like some of the best. Just briefly, what are your thoughts on the current state and what can we do to help? Because I know Armenia has gone through some hard times, especially the last 2 years.
Awareness. I
Just
think
be aware of it. Yeah.
be aware of Armenia, be aware of that one little island of Christianity, and maybe self-educate and just Google things up and then find out. Because
Absolutely.
whatever is given to you as information, you have to question everything. It could be just a promotion or propaganda or whatever.
Yes.
Just, I think
Yes.
it's important to be aware. I would say,
Yes.
and go visit Armenia. Go visit
Yes.
Armenia.
Yes.
You
This.
will love the people. You will love the food and the monasteries and the places to see. It's out of this world. They are
Wow.
ancient.
Wow. You want to motivate me now. I have to come visit Armenia soon.
Yes, come with me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything last minute you want to tell? Last thoughts before we part?
Thank you, Kate, for having me over at the show, at your show, and good
Thank
luck
you.
to your podcast. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for interviewing. I really, really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Monika. My dear listeners, thank you for being with us. I hope you really enjoyed this episode and the story and found Monika's story just as insightful as I did. If you liked what you heard, please take a moment to share this episode with a friend, leave a rating or review, and help us reach more listeners who are curious about life behind the Iron Curtain and influence of the Soviet system. I would love to hear from you, whether you have feedback, questions, or your own story to share. You can always email me at kate@thesovietlife.com. Thanks again for joining me. Until next time, this is Kate Saba, and you've been listening to The Soviet Life.